over me. She's over me. She comes with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal Bedtime Stories from Beyond. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. I hope you're having a good night. Thank you so much for being here. It is salutations to you too, Rick and Five Hazel. Hello. It's great to see everybody coming in the door. Smoking Joe, how you doing? Great to see you. Deb 45 or Dub 45. Sorry, not Deb. Dub. Isaac, how you doing? Thanks for coming in. Lewis, hello. I'm just saying hello to all these people as they're walking in the door. Hey, Timothy Allen, good to see you. Wonderful to see you guys again. Bob, how you doing? Thanks for coming in, and I hope you guys had a wonderful Monday. Monday's behind you now, so that's the good news, and you can move on to the rest of the week. Hey, Timothy, yeah, yeah, it's all right. I've grown my whole life. I've been called Brett. It's just, I guess it's just one of those things that there's a lot more Bretts, I guess, than Brents. But, hey, Fiddleback guy, Brent, that's a good, Fiddleback guy. It's good to see you. That's a new name. Sorry, I'm just reading hi, Linda. Hello, how are you? That's a new name though, Fiddleback guy. That's a cool name. Do you play the fiddle, or what's a Fiddleback? Or is that I think I know what that is. Like I used to anyway. A Fiddleback is like isn't that a plant or an animal or something like that? I don't know. But unless you play. Is it a southern term for something? I don't know. I like that, though. It's very cool. All right. Good to see everybody. Ken, good to see you. Mr. Rotman coming in from down under. Great to see you. I'm a lurker. It's a spider. Fiddleback. That's where I've heard it before. Thank you. I knew that name from somewhere. Like the Animal Kingdom. Okay. Fiddleback spider. There you go. That's right. They're kind of poisonous too, aren't they? I think they're pretty. I think they're like in the same kind of category as like a black widow, right? But yeah, just have to let me know. Yeah, good to see everybody. Moog, a fiddlehead. That's right. That's a fern. Fern is a fiddlehead. I should know that because I harvest those and we get them in the spring. I know fiddlehead, but I knew fiddleback from somewhere. So there you go. But yeah, those nasty ones make your flesh die. Oh, okay, right. Which is very much like a brown recluse, the whole necrotic tissue thing. That's a really gross deal. But I hope you had a great day. Great to see everybody coming in. I just got done guest hosting Bigfoot Odyssey before this, and it was a good time. We had a good show. Met a gentleman by the name of John Williams, who's a producer, director, independent filmmaker. Not the John Williams of, I think he's the one that wrote the score for like Star Wars or whatever, but same name, but different guy. This guy was from the UK, very nice guy. And had a fun time talking with him and Daniela as well. It's always fun to be over there checking out the Bigfoot Odyssey from the inside out. It's awesome. So, it is a brown recluse. Okay, well there you go. All right, I knew it from somewhere. I guess I thought Fiddleback was still down in Australia, but okay, yeah, it's all coming back slowly. I knew I read about Fiddlebacks and stuff. Thank you for that clarification, Weird Desk. I'm not anywhere near getting ready to do my entomology or anything like that. So, or that's a study of bugs, right? Entomology, I think so. Not that spiders are bugs, but you know what I'm saying. So anyway, welcome. We got hopefully a good show lined up for you tonight. The new podcast came out today, and that was Phone Calls from the Dead. And I love that. I love that show. I loved recording it. I loved researching the stories for it. That is just one of my all-time favorite phenomena in the ghost realm, is when people are getting those ghost phone calls. And I think it's just absolutely fascinating that they still these people. I assume that a lot of them were once people are still able to call and still able to operate phones and make that connection through phone lines. And so I think that is absolutely amazing, and I love doing that podcast. So if you haven't checked it out, please do. You can find it anywhere you find podcasts, such as Pandora, Spotify, Chatbox, iHeart Radio has podcasts. Wherever you find podcasts from, you'll find the Paranormal Portal podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, I just checked the charts, and the Paranormal Portal is number 21 in the United States for the natural sciences category, according to iTunes charts. So, which is huge. I mean, that's really exciting. So we hit number 21. That's the top placement that I know of. We're like number 11 over in New Zealand, which is really cool. I don't know. It's crazy. It's really crazy looking at those charts and seeing how we're doing. So, just really fun stuff. Really exciting that people are noticing and checking it out. Thank you all for your fine words. I appreciate that, guys. Thanks for the encouragement and support. And quite honestly, it wouldn't have happened if it hadn't been for you guys. You know, you guys have been a big part of what has caused me to and motivated Don and I to continue the Paranormal Portal and continue to try different avenues with it, is just the support and love that you guys have always given us. So this is always a special place to us, of course, our YouTube channel, and of course our TFR show. But the podcast being a newer thing, it's nice that it's being received well, and that people are enjoying the show there too. And I met a lot of those people from the podcast have come over and made themselves known here on our YouTube channel. So it's really cool. Just really exciting stuff. So anyway, that's enough about me and the show. But let's get on to the show, because you guys didn't come here to listen to me talk about the show. But anytime you guys have questions or whatever, feel free to ask. I'm always happy to answer questions, whether it's through phone or if I see it in the chat. I will certainly do my best to respond if I see something in the chat. But the phone lines will be open throughout the duration of the show, 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. And so I hope you guys are ready, because it's time for bed. All right, and we are underway here, ladies and gentlemen. So buckle up, grab a beverage, and make sure your seats are in the upright and locked position. Your tray tables are up and in the locked position, because we are taking off. I know it's cheesy as hell. That was a cheesy as hell thing to do, but I don't know. It's just me and a microphone. You get all my random thoughts at the same time, so they don't always make sense, but you should be in my head. This is the filtered version, believe it or not. So I got a bunch of stories lined up for you guys tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed them. But let's get it started here. First of all, I should see who's here. We've got a lot of people piling in the door, so it's absolutely fantastic. But 5 Hazel, Big Rob 300,080, Bob in Germany, Brandon Black Fry is here, Cha Cha is here, DJ Big Red is here, Donnie C is here. You guys are all here. Gentry Coda, hi Gentry. And hello to all of you. I don't mean to single anybody out differently. I'm thrilled to see all you guys. Joanne Brown, paranormal investigator, great to see you. Thanks for coming in. Christina, hello Christina. Linda, Lewis Ta, Mary Brim, Mogayon Monster, welcome everybody. Rick, aka Purple Hobbit, Real Dill, Robert Edgington, Scotty is in here. Beam me up. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Smokin' Joe is here. Hello. The Weird Desk US, and of course Ken is here, and our good friend and wonderful fellow TFR host and paranormal enthusiast and researcher, Mr. Duke Sullivan, and the World Bigfoot Radio is in here. So We're all over the place, ladies and gentlemen. Lots of you here. And if I didn't give you a shout out, I'm sorry. I'm just going from the list. But anyway, great to see you guys. Barry, how you doing, Barry? Thanks for coming in. Pat Studio, hello. Welcome to the show. Great to see all you guys. So let's get started here. The first story tonight is coming from Michigan. I got family in Michigan. I hope they're listening. If they love me, they are. So I hope they love me. Let's see what's going on in Michigan. To let everyone know, this is my first time ever writing down one of my ghost experiences. And to start off the story, I was really young, probably 4 or 5 years old. So I don't remember a lot about what went on in the house. All I know is mostly from research and stories from my mom and grandfather, and a few experiences of my own. What I do know or found out is that the house is located in Byron, Michigan. It was built in the 1850s. Wow, that's old. And it was a residential home until about the 1920s, when it was a hospital, up until the late 1940s, early 1950s. And then the house was an old person's home until the late 1960s, early 70s. Then it went back to being a residential home. My grandfather bought the place in the late 80s from a couple of elders. The elders told my grandfather that the house was haunted and told him of all the stuff that went on in the house, but he really didn't believe them and thought that the elders were just lost their minds being in the old house by themselves. When my grandfather finally moved in, he heard footsteps and banging in the night, but just thought that the kids were sneaking out of the house. And at the time, he was divorced and had 3 kids living with him, all in high school. Sometimes they would sneak out, but those nights were far and few. So when he got up and asked his kids who had sneaked out of there, they all said no. None of the kids ever lied. But he had never believed them up until all of his kids moved out. I had asked my mom what she had experienced in the house, and she told me that she remembers hearing voices, the stairs creaking, running water. My grandfather once had turned off the main water line to do some plumbing in the basement of the house, and that is when they heard the running water. Footsteps. She also heard the same footsteps on the carpet, babies crying. Her room used to be 2 small rooms, a nursery and a surgery room. And I remember her once telling me that she was in the house alone one night and kept hearing footsteps, voices, and all kinds of other stuff. This is before I was born and sometime around her marriage in 1991. So she called up my father in the middle of the night to get here. My father at the time was in the Marine Corps and was afraid of nothing. And yet he got chills down his back the minute he entered the house and said that my mom looked like a ghost herself. Also, I asked my grandfather what was the scariest experience he ever had in the house. And he told me that in the middle of the night, he would wake up to a cold draft on his right side of his bed and felt it move to the left side of his bed, kind of like a person walking around a bed. And then it would stop moving and just stand there. Then as quick as it appeared, it would disappear. And that's only the half of it. When the cold draft stopped, he could smell perfume where the cold draft was. He claimed it was the spirit of a woman from the 19th century. As for me having any experiences, all I can remember is my mom and grandfather getting nerves from time to time. And I personally never paid much attention to the house, but looking back, I always had nerves feeling like my mom and grandfather did from time to time. The last few things I will mention are that my grandfather first bought the house in the late 80s. He and his kids found a lot of old hospital equipment in the basement and old junk in the attic. What we believe to be blue, red military uniforms and lots of old newspapers. He and his son in the early 1990s found what they believed to be horse bones buried around the house. My uncle and grandfather were tilling a garden, and the last thing I will mention is that the house used to be part of the Underground Railroad during the American Civil War. If you or anyone you know have any questions or are interested in any more, let me know. So it doesn't surprise me that this house has some activity. I mean, if it's from the 1850s and has seen such a varied number of uses in its lifetime as a house, I guess it would be absorbing all kinds of different energies from all kinds of different kind of experiences. Being a hospital and an old nursing home kind of thing, of course, death would be probably been a pretty big factor in those old hospitals. The practice of medicine, of course, has come a long way since then, but back in the 1800s or turn of the century, 1900s, there was, medicine was still really, really touch and go. A fever could mean your death. I mean, it was just that simple. A flu could wipe out entire segments of the population. So it doesn't surprise me too much at all that so many imprints would be left on a place like that, and so much activity would be occurring over and over and over. So that's pretty profound. I'll bet you that house is pretty amazing. But it doesn't sound like any of it's dark. It doesn't sound like anything horrible. It's just presences, just all these imprints. And, who knows if they're intelligent or if they're just residual. It's nothing from those stories led me to believe anything really intelligent was going on, but maybe. Excuse me. So let's go to the next one here. And this one's coming from Tennessee. What's going on in Tennessee? It says, my story is about a friend that had recently been seeing a white light or mist as she walks into her bedroom. It's from the ceiling to floor in around the same area each time. She did in fact have two of these white light mists just last night as she walked into her bedroom, and they were in two different areas of her bedroom, and she's wondering what these could possibly be. She's very much a believer in the spiritual ghost world, and she has had a strong sixth sense since she was a little girl. She lives in Iowa, and her mother passed away almost 2 years ago, and her father is not well health-wise. Could this possibly be her mother trying to tell her something? But with the second white light or mist, she is unsure what that represents. Maybe another deceased family member, and they could both be trying to tell my friend that maybe her father doesn't have much time left. She basically wants an explanation of what these white lights or mists could be, but she isn't frightened because she has experienced many types of paranormal activity in her life. She's seen many spirits, including her deceased grandmother, although those experiences weren't always pleasant. Well, that's not good. Any explanations, anybody? Well, mists, of course, are a form of spiritual manifestation. Or can be, I guess. I don't know. I guess it's hard to say if it's an active energy or if it's just a passive energy. Who knows? You don't really know until things start really popping off, whether it's an active type of energy. But could there be other phenomena that would make white mists? I don't know. Maybe. Again, I think that the one thing I've learned in the paranormal is that we really don't know too much. I mean, even granted, our scientists have done amazing things. We've made amazing strides and stuff, and I don't ever mean to disparage our progress and what we've learned and what we may know and are close to discovering. But at the same time, I just think there's so much we don't know. And it's like what Tesla said, and I'm going to butcher the hell out of this by trying to paraphrase it because I can never quite remember the words he used. But he said that once science starts investigating the non-physical parts of the universe, we'll make more strides in 1 decade than we have in all previous time. And I think he's right, because I think that the paranormal demonstrates the true nature of reality, or at least gives us a window into what's actually possible that we're not really aware of yet. So I think we kind of walk through our lives with blinders on. And actually, we were just talking about this on Bigfoot Odyssey, was the fact that, we've certainly discussed this on the portal before many times as well, but we only see a certain spectrum of light, only a specific segment of that spectrum. We only hear a specific segment of auditory vibrations, and so on and so forth. And so that there are still so many things going on outside of what we're capable of physically experiencing. And so far, our sciences are so focused on the things that we can touch, feel, see, hear, but we haven't really explored the rest of that stuff, the rest of the stuff. I mean, we have in terms of X-rays and infrared. We know those spectrums are there, and we know that there are, of course, low frequency waves, sound waves, and there are extremely high frequency sound waves. But other than the fact that we acknowledge that there's a presence in that there are lights and things that we can't see and can't hear for sounds, what else are we missing? Again, and during the show on the Bigfoot Odyssey, I talked about just a quick mention of my UFO sighting, and if I hadn't been using night vision binoculars, I would not have seen it. I would have been absolutely oblivious to the fact that there was a flying saucer right there, because it didn't exist when I looked for it with my naked eyes. It wasn't there. It's like there, not there, there, not there, depending on whether I was looking through the night vision or not. And it wasn't because the night was so dark. And in fact, the craft I was seeing in the night vision binoculars was emitting light. It was flashing light, but all of it was outside of that spectrum. And I think it was Cade Moya I'm sure it was Cade Moya. When I was a guest on the Believe podcast, he said, well, have you ever considered that maybe that's the frequency of light they exist in? And it's just like, whoa, that was really a profound statement, a very, very profound observation. And I didn't. I just considered that they were able to hide from us because they could block that light spectrum. But what if that is their native light spectrum? And that's how they exist. And they can maybe see us in ours. And it's kind of a wild idea. And maybe that is the light spectrum they exist in and the light vibration they exist in. And otherwise to us, they're just ghosts. I mean, that's incredibly deep. That's an incredibly deep possibility. And yet they probably have the technology to view our light spectrum. And maybe that's why they appear and disappear in our experience. It's not because they're just going, to light speed and zipping out of existence. Maybe they're just tuning it back down to their own native frequency. And maybe therein is a dimensional gateway, which is through that light frequency. I don't know. I'm just saying it's some really profound stuff. There's some pretty amazing potential ramifications attached to that. So, perhaps the same thing as, our spirit bodies. They exist in a higher light vibration. And, I know we use those terms all the time in spirituality, vibration. We're getting to a higher vibration. Well, maybe it's more literal than we think. Just throwing it out there. Just throwing it out there, guys. But, well, thank you, Rick. I appreciate that. I think it is. I think it's absolutely huge, enormous. Unfortunately, I'm not a person that can do anything with that knowledge. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a researcher in a traditional sense. But, maybe somebody will hear that and maybe it'll inspire something incredible. And maybe they'll say, hey, I was listening to the portal and boom, viral. I'm just kidding. Like I'm just an opportunist here. But I think, it's really fascinating to think about the possibilities about what that means and what could it mean. So if I was a smarter person, I could probably do something with that knowledge, but I'm not. I'm just the guy that talks into a microphone for several times a week. So let's go to the next one. This one is coming from Arkansas. And it says, this happened a couple months ago. I was riding the bus to school. And the bus driver was picking up the kids. And when he turned around a curve, well, I saw a shadow that wasn't on the ground or anything, behind a tree. Well, at first I thought that some people were probably hiding behind the tree. When we got to the other side of it, there was no one there. I thought I could have just imagined things, but then I saw it again on the road just after 5 minutes later. How the hell slow was this bus going that you were able to see something in the same spot 5 minutes later? I don't think I've seen it right because I didn't have my glasses with me, but I swear I saw something strangely odd. That was the last time I saw it that day. But then again, it shows up the next day in my room at night while I was going upstairs. I saw I think they meant shadow figure. It says show figure of an old man running across from me with the blink of an eye. I began to get scared, so I decided to sleep with the lights on in the living room. Of course, my back was hurting the next day, and I didn't get that much sleep because I was horrified. From that day on, I can still see it. I don't know what it is, and I don't think I want to know because I'm afraid to know what it really is, but I don't know if it's the shadow that leads us to hell or something I'm just imagining. Maybe I'm just imagining things I just can't explain. Either way, I want it out of my head and my mind. Yeah, that's the truth. I mean, you can't unsee something. Once you've seen it, you can deny it. You can pretend it doesn't exist, but there's always going to be a part of you that remembers that. And I always think about skeptics when skeptics experience something. And every skeptic will have a story, too. I don't believe in ghosts, but this one time, and it'll be some fascinating, spiritual event. And then they'll just chalk it up to, I don't know what happened, but I don't believe in ghosts. So it's like, even in the presence of compelling experiences, they still just won't go there. They just won't do it. So many skeptics have a story like that, or have a few stories like that. I don't believe in ghosts, but this one time, this one weird thing happened, and I don't know how to explain it. I can't explain it, but I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in UFOs. This one time I saw this light, but I don't believe in UFOs. Or, I don't believe in Bigfoot, but this one time I was in the woods, and they go on to explain these events that are absolutely incredible, but they just refuse to go there mentally in their head. They just won't make that last turn. And that's fine. I mean, they don't need to. There's no rule that says they have to, but I don't know. It's too bad because I think at that point you're really kind of living in a state of denial, and that's okay if that's what you need. But I don't know. To me, this stuff is just so exciting. Even though I've had some crummy experiences, but still, it's only whet my appetite to wanna learn more about it. So I guess that's why I got a show. All right, let's go to the next one, and this one is from Connecticut, or otherwise known as Connecticut. When I was younger, ages 6 or 8, I don't know which, but in that range, I lived in an old house rented by my aunt at the time, and I'm not sure of the year the house was built, but I do believe it was sometime in the 40s or 50s. I shared a downstairs bedroom with my sister, who was 2 years older than me. Although it was the first floor, the window was still approximately 8 feet off the ground due to a hill the house was sitting on. And we had this silly alarm system in that house that was activated by sensors at the tops and bottoms of the windows and the front basement and back door. The windows in the house were all new when we moved in, and one night in the middle of summer, our whole family, me, my sister, and my mom and dad, woke up in the sound of the alarm sounding. Well, we searched around the house and nothing was out of place except the bedroom window that I had my bed under. It had been shut. My mom tried to tell me that I must have done it in my sleep, and she surely just wanted me to get back to sleep. And I went to bed that night knowing that I did not shut it in my sleep because, honestly, as a 7-year-old girl, I didn't have the strength to sit up and use both hands and shut a window all in my sleep. I'm a very light sleeper. I would have woken up. A few months later, I remember going into my room to lie down for the night. I'm sure you remember when you're young and you have a set bedtime and you need to go to bed even if you're not tired. Well, I was not tired. I remember lying awake, looking out the window at the sky and the trees, and I always kept a nightlight on in my bedroom. I saw a man with light hair and a blurry face walk past and stare into my window. That's creepy. I remember exactly what it looks like because it scared the hell out of me. I covered my head with my blankets and went to sleep. I always wondered why he had looked blurry, because thinking back, It looked like a reflection. I know that nobody could have walked past my bedroom window from the outside with me seeing him. Like I said, the window was about 8 feet off the ground. Well, I'm 20 years old now, and I still remember these events clearly. Recently, about 2 years ago, when I was 18, my sister and I were talking about how, when I was little, I used to have so many stuffed animals. My sister then asked me why I talked to them every night before bed. Well, I told her I didn't, and she told me that every single night that we lived in that house, she heard whispering coming from my bed, whispering that she couldn't make out the words, but she heard it clear enough to remember 10 years later. Ooh, that's some haunting going on there. Huh. That sounds like some ghostly kind of stuff, I'm thinking. Sorry, I haven't been watching anything. Have I missed anything? I haven't been paying attention to the chat too much at all either, so I apologize. I'm trying to get better at this when I'm doing these solo shows to keep an eye on everything, but I kind of get tunnel vision because I'm reading these stories and I'm thinking at the same time, and it's just like I get this tunnel vision, like. So I apologize if I'm missing anything. So sometimes you got to yell at me. Yes, Elaine, how you doing? Good to see you. Did you just get in? Welcome to the show, Elaine. Great to see you. Duke says, we're talking about skeptics. He says, that's why I call those guys skeptards, to differentiate them from actual skeptics. Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's, it's hard to understand how they can have these amazing experiences and still default to, well, I don't believe in ghosts, or I don't believe in Bigfoot, or I don't believe in UFOs, but this one time. So many of them have one of those stories. And then, at that point, it's just an act of desperation, I think. Had to wet my whistle. All right, what's next? Oh, Minnesota's next. That's my old stomping grounds right there, Minnesota. I'm a Minnesotan. You betcha, don't you know? All right, so Minnesota, what's going on there? It says, I would offer a different perspective to a true haunting. A nomad theory, a lost soul entering and exiting our plane of existence like a nomad. My belief is all souls are ghosts, spirit, or entities at the time the body ceases to exist, and that they flow through us and our environment because that is where their energy truly exists due to their love for life. Their energy is not created with death, but the grasping of a life they once knew. My belief is that we all have one true moment of joy. A child's first walk in the yard, a special little laugh while cuddling with your wife. And this is where our spirit needs to rest. An earthly heaven, so to speak. So it's the spot we are safe and comfortable. It's an impression in our soul that shaped our behavior while we lived our lives and made us comfortable with our final resting place when we passed. But what if that happy moment was 30 years ago in a house long ago demolished? Will this spirit roam and roam, becoming more frustrated, flying in and out of the paranormal sensitive areas? What if it finds the house or area that they were happiest and doesn't recognize the family? Well, I would hope all can find their special comfort zone and assure all believers of the paranormal that a ghost is and once was a loving soul. A malevolent behavior could be that of frustration, frustrated, lost, and lonely soul that just needs to be comforted and guided. However, I would not disregard or confuse this theory with that of a demonic haunting or possession, but only offer it as a reasonable theory to abnormal activity that surrounds us. It is but a belief that puts a smile on my face when I hear the pitter-patter of my beloved Pooh Bear's paw on our hard kitchen floor late at night, or when mysteriously I do exactly what my long-past dear grandpa would have done, even when it's not the popular choice. I don't know. There's a lot of references there. I don't know exactly what those choices are, but They do. It looks like she had a Bashan, a little white fluffy Bashan puppy, or he. I don't know if it's a he or she, but very cool. And it could be that could be where some spirits choose to rest, in that happy place. Maybe it's with family. Maybe it's in a place that was home. That could very well be. All right, let's go to the next one here, and this is Oklahoma. Back in January of this year, which is 2008, my husband and I moved into our first apartment. Being a country girl and not a big fan of the city, I was hesitant about it. He was currently looking for a new job, and I was working overnight at Super Target. So I would always go to bed at about noon and wake up an hour before I had to go to work. One evening, my husband came in to wake me, and he saw a dark, cloaked figure in the corner near the closet. He reached for the light, and when he looked back, it had disappeared. Well, after I woke, he told me that what he had seen was a tall, cloaked figure with a skull-type face. Not too worried about, and thinking, it says not too worried about, not T-O-O worried about, but not T-O worried about. And thinking that it was just a shadow he had seen while I went to work. About 2 weeks later, we found out that we're going to have a baby. Well, I was 7 weeks along at the time. During those 2 weeks, we had a series of nightmares. His were of losing me and having to raise the baby alone, and some of losing both the baby and me. Our nightmare he had that reoccurred more often. He said he had killed me, and he couldn't understand why he had killed me. But he had to raise the baby alone, and he was so depressed about it when he told me that he was crying. I had a nightmare as to why I couldn't pick up my baby because my hands would go right through him. And when I would walk through this house we were in, there was blood on the walls and floors, so I couldn't understand exactly what was going on. But it made me worry that I was going to lose the baby. One night, again, he goes to wake me and sees the figure standing over me, in bed. From the doorway, he told me to wake up, so I sit up in bed, and I still don't see it, but I felt something was there. I had woken up from a nightmare earlier while I had been sleeping before work, and thought someone was there, but went back to sleep regardless. That following morning at work, I had started cramping really bad, and as soon as I got home, I called my mom and then the doctor, and the nurse at my doctor's office said I had to make an appointment. Oh, jeez. And that someone would call me within 30 minutes to have me come in or go to the hospital. When my mom called me back and told me to put pillows under my hips and feet and told me to relax, calm down, and not to worry. Well, I didn't go back to work that night since my manager still wouldn't pull me from the heavy lifting, even though I told him the day I found out that I was pregnant. He still wanted me to lift things that were way over 20 pounds. Of course he did, because these kind of people don't care much about you. I shortly found a new job and had to quit Super Target, and I had told my mom about it, and she told me to pray over both the baby and the apartments. Other than that, things would go missing and then turn up again a day or so later. I worried for the longest time that it was after our baby. I'm not certain, but we moved in May and we haven't had anything bad happen. Only nightmares I get are the ones that involve snakes and spiders, or having to raise the baby by myself, which isn't going to happen with as much concern as he has for our relationship. But this concludes this odd occurrence in my life. I have more, but I'll write about them another time. So it does sound like one of those dark things. I don't know that appearance is necessarily important because I think they manifest however they choose to, but I would just say it sounds like one of those kind of beings that seems to subsist on, weakened people. Whether that's, you call them true shadow people or what. It's these dark things, and they don't really, they don't even have emotion as far as I can tell. They're just these, they don't think much more about it than we think about taking a bite of a sandwich. It's just, you do it. That's just the way it is. And, so they seem to take, and I don't know. I don't know. I'd like to hear whether or not they had the baby, if everything turned out all right. But really cool story. But yeah, I just think, this could be one of those situations. I'd have been saging the hell out of the place and doing a lot more, I guess. Cedar boughs, frankincense, incense, candles, crystals, lots of different things you can do to ward your house against evil. Prayers, holy water, you name it. Lots of ideas. Let's see where we're at with the time. What does it say? For less than the price of a cup of coffee, your thumbs up could make a difference in the ranking of the Paranormal Portal. Weird Desk, you're a practiced hand at this, aren't you? Very good. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I love the thumbs up, guys, because it really does help. It helps the show. It helps the show to be recommended by YouTube. So the thumbs up are wonderful if you're enjoying the show. If you're not enjoying it, then if you don't want to hit the like button, I understand. But if you are enjoying it, then please do, because it certainly helps. It helps push the show up on the recommended videos list for other people that may be interested in the paranormal. So there is a method to the madness. All right. Next story is coming from Washington State, which is right next door to me. Washington State's a pretty cool state. I think that actually, the Washington is beautiful over by the Olympic Peninsula and such, but there's a large part of Washington that's really kind of unremarkable, I think, unless you're by the coast or if you're by the Idaho side. I think there's a whole middle part there that's, as far as I don't remember ever driving through it, but I just have never heard anything really remarkable about it. So let's see what's going on in Washington. This is by no means a spectacular story, and I've read some wonderful ones on here, but it was the most recent experience I've encountered, and a bit creepy all the same. About a month back, a friend and I were on our way to a party and stopped by our local Fred Meyer in Bellingham, Washington, to pick up some beer for our friend, and we had just walked down the aisle and faced with the dilemma of finding a brand our friend wanted, and we spent a good few minutes pacing around and being unsuccessful in our endeavor. Deciding to go to the grocery store across the street instead, I turned around to say something to my friend, and right as I did, a bottle of beer on the third shelf up literally jumped out of the six-pack it resided in and rolled across the floor to our feet. Startled, we both stared wide-eyed and silent. I would have assumed it had just fallen had I not witnessed it myself, and my friend quickly confirmed what I had seen. It looked like an invisible someone had lifted it straight out of the pack, dropped it on the ground in front of the display case, and it was a glass bottle, and it didn't break, so obviously it wasn't done with much force. We kind of laughed it off for a moment until a Fred and Meyer employee, who had been about 5 feet away at the time, came over to pick it up, and we mentioned how strange it was. He told us straight-faced that it was just one of their ghosts. They have 2 of them in the store, apparently, and even have names for them. And he told us weird things happen around the store quite frequently. Needless to say, we got out of there pretty quickly after that. Huh. See, there again, I think that's just really powerful stuff. I really do. Well, this one's a little longer. How long are we doing? How are we doing on time? Let's see. Yeah, we got time for a longer one. Okay. 68 people in here. Forget about it. You guys are all in here. Thank you all for being here and being a part of the show. That's just brilliant. I really mean it. That's awesome. It's wonderful. Okay. So this is Missouri is next. What's going on in Missouri or Missouri? This is a story told to me by my sisters. My brothers and sisters had many paranormal experiences individually. This story is about my sisters, Anna and Rosa, and Anna was about 12 years old and Rosa was about 16. My bio has a lot more details, but one morning at about 6:30 a.m., Anna was getting ready for school in the bathroom. Suddenly, she heard someone calling her name. She listened to see who it may have been, and the voice sounded really distant and strange. And this is not a voice that she had heard before. Well, she ignored it. Again, she heard the voice. It said, "Anna, She then thought maybe it was Rosa calling her, and she went to Rosa's room and found her asleep. She woke her up and said, "Are you calling me?" Rosa said in a very sleepy voice, "No, I am sleeping." Anna then explained that she had heard someone calling her. It sounded like it was coming from the attic, but she thought it was. She would ask regardless, just in case. And Anna went back to the bathroom, got ready, and left for school. My sister Rosa didn't go to school that day, and later when she woke up, she told my mom that Anna heard a voice call her name, and she also heard marbles falling out of the attic door. Why my sister would exaggerate, I don't know, but she still exaggerates about pretty much everything to this day. Nice. My mom brushed it off, and the whole day was normal. The ones who went to school, and everyone was together again by 4 p.m. dinner around 7, then bedtime at 10. We all had to share rooms. Rosa and Anna shared a room, but this night Anna decided to sleep in the living room with my brother Salvador. Therefore, Rosa slept alone in her room. It was now about 12:30 and Rosa was still not asleep. Keep in mind that the attic door was a pull-down door located in the ceiling outside of Rosa's bedroom door. She tossed and turned all night. She described that night to be eerie and felt a thickness in the air. She was hot and couldn't find a comfortable position to sleep in, so she got up to open the door in hopes that it would help cool her room down. Eventually, the room began to cool down, and she felt like she could fall asleep soon, but that was interrupted by a familiar sound. Rosa lay still in order to be able to distinguish whether or not this is really what she was hearing. She came to the conclusion that, yes, she heard marbles falling. The marbles were falling out of the ceiling. Were they falling from the attic door? Maybe. They would fall down, bounce on the hallway floor, and then into her room. Then they would bounce off the footboard of her bed and hit the stereo in front of her bed. She couldn't see them falling in the hallway, but she could hear them, and she could see them hitting the stereo, though. At this point, my poor sister was petrified. She lay still, though waiting to see what would happen next, and the marbles stopped falling from the ceiling, but she could now hear them under her bed, and it sounded like someone was flicking them around as if they were playing with them. It was quite impossible for someone to be under her bed since the bed frame... It was quite impossible for someone to be under her bed since the bed frame stood very high. I, as a kid, remember crawling under this bed during games of hide and seek. My sister lay still, but finally let out a scream and yelled for Mom. Mom came running to her room, turned the bedroom light on, and found my sister curled up on the bed. Rosa said, "Mom, look under the bed and tell me if you see marbles." My mom looked and found dozens of marbles under the bed. Some were still rolling around. My mom asked what happened, and Rosa explained to her what had happened and then confessed to exaggerating the morning about marbles. My sister, as big as she was, slept with my parents that night. I myself do remember the next morning. I remember my mom and Rosa picking up the marbles that day. I also remember my mother demanding us to find every marble in the house and throw it away. Since then, we were never allowed to bring marbles into our home. I suppose because you don't know if those marbles are carrying some kind of problem with them, some kind of attachment, an energy attachment or something. Yeah. Eesh. All right, we got another one here. This one's from Maryland. I thought that I should first let you know that I'm really interested in the paranormal. I've always wanted to see and feel a ghost around me. Careful what you wish for. At my house, I've seen some really odd things going on, and I want your opinions, if it's a ghost or not. I'll start off as to when I thought there might be a ghost in my house. When I was around 5, I was on the computer, and it was fairly warm in the room. Nothing felt too weird, but all of a sudden, I felt cold air on the back of my neck for no reason. My hair was covering my neck, and I thought of how it really wasn't that possible for only my neck to get cold. When I was 7, I was in the family room and I was watching TV and started and I started whistling. And not long after, I started to hear someone whistling down in the basement because I could hear it through the vents. Well, that's not creepy at all. I kept whistling to see if it was just one time thing, but for about 3 minutes, it kept whistling with me. I got so freaked out, I ran out of the room frantically. As of this year, I have had stranger occurrences. I was walking down the hallway once, and I can't remember if I had my iPod on or not, but something, and I can almost remember it perfectly, said hi to me. I let it blow past through, thinking it might have been my imagination. Once I was walking in the basement, and no one was home, but in the far corner of the basement, someone sneezed. Can ghosts sneeze? I don't know. That's interesting. Huh. Even more recently, I just bought a new iPod, and I was playing with my photos I'd put on it, and I remember turning my iPod off to a certain photo, and then when I came back, it was on something completely different. I kept coming back to it, and it was just not the same. I put up a sticky note saying, "Please don't touch my iPod," and nothing has happened to it ever since. That's respectful then. I also remember that once I was drawing in my room and I only caught it out of the corner of my eye, but something came flying at my head and then made a large thud on the ground. It freaked me out and I wouldn't go back in for another 20 minutes. The last thing I can think of at the moment would be when it was nighttime and I was trying to get to sleep, but had my eyes open because I couldn't, and I noticed that a white shadow just swept through the room and then vanished. I thought maybe it was the glare from my window or a truck or something going by, but when I looked out the window, I didn't see or hear any vehicle. Then again, it could be explained by the moon shining in through a tree or something and having some weird effect through the glass in my room. I did have curtains up, though, so what would have been harder to prove? So that would have been harder to prove, rather. I really don't know if any of these are signs of a ghost, but they're all true. As to what I've experienced, I would love to hear your opinions or what you guys think it is, and if by some way it is a ghost, I'd like some advice on how to contact it better. Be careful. I really want to believe it is, but maybe it really is my imagination. I've never felt cold presences, and I don't really have that great of psychic abilities. I don't know. There's it's kind of a belief. It's sometimes summed up as magnetism. When you put enough energy towards something, you'll end up drawing it to you. This person's obviously fascinated with ghosts, and I don't know if the whistling story is true, that this person's whistling, and it's not a house shared by anyone else. If this person was the only one home and heard whistling come up from the vents from the basement, I think that's enough evidence. But if something did pass by and said hello, well, at that point, I don't know why you need someone else's validation, because obviously if those things truly did happen, then it sounds like you got some kind of presence there. I don't know. Could be a ghost. Just saying. They tend to be around, is what I hear. Okay, so I guess that's going to about wrap it up for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed this jaunt through the Paranormal Portal, Bedtime Stories from Beyond. I, of course, love bringing them to you. This is truly one of the great pleasures of my life, is doing this show, and I can't thank you all enough for helping support that and being a part of it. Thank you to all of you who came in tonight, whether you're in there chatting or if you're just sitting back listening. Either way, I'm absolutely honored that you chose to spend time here with me and us here. Thank you for being a part of the Paranormal Portal family. So thank you, Weird Desk. I appreciate that. But all I can say is we just got started. Oh, Moog. These are only an hour show. Wednesday, Friday, Saturday are 2-hour shows, though, ladies and gentlemen. If you're new to the portal and new to our YouTube schedule, then you'll know that on Wednesdays we do a 2-hour show. Don is here with me then, and Don is here on Saturdays as well. So on Saturday night this week, however, I do want to say that we have Donald Raymond Schmidt coming back, and Donald Raymond Schmidt is a incredible researcher and has been written many Amazon bestsellers on the whole Roswell incident, and he is the founder and part owner of the Roswell Museum and Research Center, and was just fascinating last time he was on the show. But he's supposed to be on Saturday night again. So on the 2nd, he will be here with Don and I, and we'll get into that. So if you have a hankering for some UFO talk and disclosure and all of that, then definitely you'll want to tune in, because Donald's really a marvelous guy. Great discussions with him, and he'll be back here on Saturday night. So I hope you guys will join us then. But I guess that's about it for tonight. I'll be back tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time is your 7 days a week schedule right here on YouTube to catch another live Paranormal Portal if you're enjoying the show. So I will be here tomorrow night for another episode of the Bedtime Stories, and I hope you guys will join me then. But I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can, everybody. All right, good night, all. Have a great night, and sweet dreams.